Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this virtual professional development opportunity. My name is Joe Schmidt, and I'm the Social Studies Specialist for the Maine Department of Education. This morning, I am happy and thrilled to be hosting Rebecca Valbuena. She's coming to us from California bright and early this morning. She is an award-winning elementary school teacher who I've gotten to know. She's also an NCSS board member on the board of directors, and we've served and done some committee work together through that. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Rebecca. She's going to tell you a little bit more about herself, and then she's going to do the presentation. So go ahead, Rebecca.
Great. Thank you, Joe. Thank you very much for this opportunity to share elementary stories and research and ideas. I think we don't get enough opportunities to have an elementary only forum, so really appreciate it because it's very much needed. And thank you all for coming on to this presentation. It shows a lot of dedication, and whether you're on summer break or getting close to it, it's really exciting and special that you took the time to come on to this. So I want to thank you all for being here and sharing this hour or so with me. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Give me one sec. Okay, and hopefully I was practicing because I didn't want you all to see my messy desktop, but Joe said that you are forgiving. So I wanted to just introduce myself. My name is Rebecca. I have been teaching 30 years in Los Angeles County, and currently for the last 5 years, I am what's called a TOSA. It makes it sound like I should have a badge, but I'm a teacher on special assignment. Dun, dun, dun. And what I do primarily is I do academic coaching with teachers in the mornings. It's one-on-one, and we work together for about 6 weeks every day because that's what research shows makes transformative change in pedagogy. And then in the afternoons, I do things for my district, like run articulation meetings and grant writing and such, those things. So it's been an interesting job. I'm going to be honest that I don't know, I've been doing this job for 5 years, but with current situations, I'm fully prepared to teach 5th grade again next year because we will have such severe budget cuts coming. So the situation we're in now, I know it's not new. We were distance learning for 11 weeks out here in Glendora. I work in Glendora Unified. It's on the eastern side of Los Angeles County, and it is a very small city with 5 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, 1 high school, 1 continuation high school. And so when people think of Los Angeles, they think of LAUSD, which is our giant district that services the city of Los Angeles, but there are 14 other districts in Los Angeles County, or there's probably more, number maybe. It's a very big piece of geographic space. So I'm on the very eastern side, closest to San Bernardino County. My teachers, I coach all elementary teachers, so it's about 200 people. What I'm going to share with you today is our story of what we went through and some best practices in terms of social studies and online distance learning. But I want to clarify that, you know, the first 2 weeks that we were all distance learning was literally, well, one, everybody was shocked. It was survival. We immediately got on and started having meetings together and sharing resources and whatnot. And then around week 3 or 4, we started to find a groove and do our best to educate our students. In the big picture, we want to remember that this isn't homeschooling. This isn't really distance learning. It's learning in the time of COVID, right? So we have to remember that this is not our typical distance learning situation. And we couldn't approach it in the way that many people were speaking, oh, just move it online. Well, we have students that are, and humans that are in trauma. So that's a whole different ballgame. So when we were working together, what we've done through COVID-19 are things that we've never done before. We will probably continue in the fall in some sort of blended way. We are still unsure. And the hardest part for teachers, as you know, is the unknown, right? So it was literally day by day, learning little by little, week by week, and just getting better as we went. So today, after working with teachers, and remember K-5 crowds, we teach all subjects, but again, the focus today is on social studies because we especially want to make sure that we are not marginalizing this content area even more than it already is. Moving to a distance learning model or remote learning model, we have to ensure that our students are still involved in inquiry-based instruction and that we give them our best type of pedagogy and not here's what you're going to read and answer the questions. So that's very easy to do, but we want to be sure that we're including a model for social studies that is inquiry-based and that leads to informed action. So how is that possible? I'm going to show you an example today of one that we used. I used as a model example with teachers, and it's something you can build on your own, and you'll get access to all of the things that I'm sharing today. So we wanted to ensure that we are including all content areas, but I want to start today with 3 general tips for distance learning in elementary school, because here's the thing, you don't just tell a kindergartner, hey, log on at 9. It doesn't work that way. Our youngest learners, don't always, they're usually the bottom of the priority list in the family in terms of Wi-Fi access and computer access. They need adult supervision and help to at least learn these things. So there are some general tips that we want to talk about first, and that apply directly to social studies distance learning. But I feel like these things need to be under the umbrella of 3 major tips. So I'm going to share these 3 tips that I've just acquired through the 11 weeks of distance learning with my 200 teachers. And then I'll share a model lesson that I created with Google Form. And I know that districts and schools use different platforms. We use Google because that's what our teachers have access to. We have access to the Google Suite. So I wanted to provide an example in something that was really simple that they all have access to and that our kids all have access to through Google Classroom. So we'll go ahead and start. And my first tip is this whole thing about cohesion and our kids and the emotional part of this. So distance learning does not mean relational distance. We know that the human connection is so important, right? That we have to connect with our young students. Like that's what elementary school's about. So how can we feel together when we're apart? And my suggestion to teachers was, even if it's just once a week of synchronous class time, do that if you can possibly do that, because not everyone was doing it. We had different variations that we were all over the place. We couldn't really mandate things, but the suggestion of having a synchronous meeting with your students, just 30 minutes, typically at the beginning of the week. We had parents say that their students looked forward to this all week. They like to see each other's faces. If you've ever run a Zoom meeting with 2nd graders, 1st graders, kindergartners, even 3rd graders, it's crazy. I mean, you have to really teach digital citizenship. You have to teach speaking, muting, staying on a topic, etc. So we have lots of tips for just that, and we sent around models for Zooming and Google Hangout meetings. But that 30 minutes together set the tone for the week. There are a couple other reasons to have it early in the week, and this may or may not apply to you all, and not many people understand this, but in Los Angeles, we have so many students in poverty that the companies were providing free internet access. But what the public doesn't realize is that the internet access would run out midweek. So as teachers, we have to plan to use the Wi-Fi at the beginning of the week, because by the end of the week, the whole family's been logging on. They have brothers and sisters in high school, and the Wi-Fi would run out, and they'd get another, and it would reset on Sunday night, I guess. So providing that synchronous time to touch base, go over assignments, and then provide some sort of blended model during the week, touching base every day with emails or Remind or various platforms with students digitally. But having that face-to-face contact was so important for social emotional, that live class time, allowing students to collaborate with each other and talk to each other so they didn't feel alone, so that they knew, gosh, everybody's in the same situation, and there was just a little bit of safety to that. And that when we engage on topics, and I'll show you how to engage during that synchronous time in social studies, it provided for that relevance and rigor, right? We want to continue to, even though we're teaching this way, the rigor and relevance is what makes learning valuable. So we don't want to just get on our synchronous time and share our stuffed animals, right? I mean, that's how it started, because we were just getting used to meeting, but to make it actually pointed and structured, rigorous and relevant, and providing that routine, that seemed to keep kids feeling secure. Like, I know at X time on Monday or Tuesday, I'm meeting my teacher and I'll see her face, or I'll see his face, I'll see my friends. So providing that routine was important. Now, what we did find is that around week 5, the routine got old. The novelty had worn off, and we were all like, okay, kids aren't showing up to meetings, what do we do? So we had to breathe some novelty into those meetings. So we had long talks and brainstorm sessions on how to keep kids engaged, because the first month it was fine. Everybody was excited. It was new and different. And then after a while, it became mundane for them, and they stopped showing up, and we were losing control, like as far as like getting kids online. We couldn't do much but to make it fun, because when it's fun, they're motivated to come on, right? So we provided some sort of novelty in that. So the first tip is just being sure that that human connection is still intact. We know teachers are the most important element in the classroom, and we don't want to lose that. The collaboration, the digital citizenship. This is the perfect time to teach digital citizenship. And what we found is that in our upper grade students especially, we were having chat bar problems, right? Like inappropriate comments, etc. So we were stressed about that. We would brainstorm how to deal with it. And it finally was like, listen, you normally have recess problems, right? That's normal. Now you have chat bar problems. It's part of the job. So we have to teach them how to behave in the chat bar. So there were things about distance learning that provided us this opportunity to teach digital citizenship that we didn't have before, but it is absolutely necessary. And to provide that fun, engagement, and novelty to it. My second tip, and I share this with teachers every single day, is listen, less is more. Okay, our teachers went nuts the first 2 weeks. There was a good third of them that were very savvy on tech, and they got nervous, and they overwhelmed the students and their parents. And then about 2 weeks later, they were like, listen, this week I'm not assigning anything new. It's just going to be a holding week. And I don't know if that happened to you, but that was a very typical thing that happened, like too much online. And when you're working in an online forum, simplicity is key. We have to find routines that work. Our teachers were inundated with information. We had too many resources, too many to read through, too many to figure out what works, too many to learn. So it was, listen, find something that works for you and stay with it. The kids are okay. You don't need to have anything fancy, even though teacher, in another state or on IG or on Facebook is showing their amazing things. There was this pressure that what I'm doing isn't good enough, or what I need to do more. Teachers were so stressed and burnt out. Was just permission to find what works for you, simple routine, keep a schedule. Kids like that. Network with other teachers, add things slowly. And so we found out that it was super important and relaxed our teachers. And honestly, relaxed teachers are better teachers. No one learns when they're stressed, and no one can teach when they're stressed. I mean, we have to, but it's important to just bring it down a notch and do what you know works, and add things little by little. Dig deeper with things that are familiar to you, extend them. And that third point, it got to this point where so many teachers were saying they were overwhelmed. So don't let those tools be obstacles. Just use simple things. So if email works for you, use it. If Remind works for you, use it. Find your one tool that you love and make that tool work. Thirdly, this is the perfect, and this is the silver lining of distance learning. We now can prioritize pretty easily creative assignments and projects. This provides us this amazing opportunity to allow kids time. How many times have we given a cool project, but we don't have the class time? Or we're wondering how, there's that little group of students over here and a group of students over there that are so into it, and the bell rings for the end of the day and they go, oh, which, by the way, we know as a teacher's dream come true, right? When they groan when the bell rings. But working at home allows those kids to take their time. We found that some of our special needs students, our special ed population, were thriving. Some weren't, but many were, and it was because they had time and they didn't have the pressure of things going on around them that made them feel like they had to hurry. So they were really doing great and digging on their own. And honestly, this is such a great opportunity. If we can put a spark into kids, they have the time to research. They have the time to dig deep into topics of interest, and pull out amazing projects and learn new things on their own. So I think this is the time to capitalize on that. Provide the excitement, lay the foundation, cultivate curiosity, let them dive into a content area, and come back on that Monday synchronous class time and share it. And then go from there and go for that solidification of skills and content. So those 3 tips are my overarching thoughts before we dig into social studies instruction. So how do we lean into inquiry when we're distance learning, right? So we want to make sure that our kids get that experience and that we are providing this question-based opportunity for students to act like a historian, investigate on their own, look at primary sources, draw conclusions, corroborate information, and write something amazing or do a project. So we want to embrace that student experience with open-ended challenges and explorations. Like we said, this is the perfect chance for that. We can use this inquiry structure. Now, I wanted to find something, and I found this online. I did not make it up, and I cannot remember the researcher's name off the top of my head, but if you Google it, you will find it. But it's the 5E model, and this seemed to work really well for distance learning, and it works really well in the area of inquiry-based social studies. So we have those 5 E's, and the first E is engage. So when I'm going to see if I have a slide on that. Yes, I do. I couldn't remember. Engage is when we do what we do in the classroom. We tap and build prior knowledge. We foster that interest. We cultivate curiosity. We get kids ready to learn, right? So what can we do online to get them ready to learn? Is it with questions? It might be a little video clip. It might be a discussion. This is something that could be done in that synchronous time. Just a 10-minute, like getting them ready, showing them a picture, looking at a primary source together in synchronous class time. Then you would have them work alone. So we have this like idea that we're synchronous and they work alone and then synchronous again. So in their asynchronous time, they actually explore. This is their learning experiences. What are you providing them to read, look at, think about, write, take notes on, draw? That explore time happens on their own. The explain can be a synchronous time too. This is when they've done some learning, they get back together, we synthesize new knowledge together. It's an opportunity for our students to ask questions, seek that clarification, and it's our chance as teachers to boost understanding, right? So they've done some work on their own, we get back together for synchronous time to explain and synthesize. Elaborate, back on your own, asynchronous time. What we've discussed, what we've learned, how will you apply it? Can you develop some deeper understanding? What can you create? I will provide you with opportunities, or maybe it's open-ended. How can you investigate further? And this is our chance to let kids cement their knowledge. So they've explored, we've synthesized together, and now what happens next? How can you elaborate on this learning and really cement that knowledge? And then that E piece, the last one, evaluate, it can be done asynchronous or synchronous depending on the age of your students. If I had kindergarten, I would want to do this synchronous. If I had fifth graders, I would do this asynchronous, but this is your chance to observe them, to monitor them, to adjust your instruction just like we would in the classroom. And you can observe through speaking, if they're young ones, or drawings, or you can observe through writing and projects with any age actually. But we decide formative and summative assessments at this point, and then plan our next set of instruction. So that 5E model is something that our teachers found to be really helpful in designing their lessons. I mean, we know that all good teachers know why they're doing it, right? We can't just go to Pinterest, we can't just go to TPT, Teacher Pay Teacher, and grab stuff that look cute and give it to our kids. Like, we really, as teachers, need to know why we're giving something and what is the point. What do we want out of it? I mean, so too often we find people just grabbing other people's resources and dishing it out to their kids, and with really no other thought than this looked cute. And that is not solid pedagogy. We need to know why we're doing what we're doing. And it's great to borrow and tweak and get ideas from online resources, but if you don't know your purpose, you need to take the minute to do that, or take the 30 minutes to do that. So I want to share a sample lesson. I made this on Google Form. It's super, super intuitive, and I'm old and I'm not intuitively savvy with technology, and I can drop and drag this like no other. So I used Google Form to show a model of how to use the 5Es. This is in our state what would be considered a second grade unit. It fits with our hero, what is a hero, citizenship, etc. But it also could go with third grade because we do people that make a difference, etc. So I'm not sharing the content. What I'm sharing today is the way it is. And you can change the content however you like. I happened to use Cesar Chavez. It was his birthday, end of March. We closed our schools March 13th. This is where most teachers were anyway. And teaching the life and legacy of Cesar Chavez is one of our state standards and is actually a mandate. So I wanted to share with you, I'm going to scoot to the actual live version of it, and I have provided you with a link that will give you a copy. And all you have to do is click on that link and it'll say, do you want to make a copy? And then you'll have your own to use as is or to remodel however you like. So I'm going to share it with you. The kids see, let me grab it real quick. So here it is. And so this is the actual Google form, and the kids see this. This is the teacher version because it lets me add things. But every form I send them has the same header on it because we have questions. Are you ready for the week's inquiry? We've been hearing a lot about heroes because that's been on the news, essential heroes. We'll explore this compelling question: what makes a hero a hero? So we want students to do an inquiry to come up with this answer for themselves. What makes a hero a hero? So when they work, this is asynchronous time. So they do this before the synchronous meeting. What words describe a hero? And they just write their thoughts. Next one, so simple. And these are things I do in the classroom, right? I just scooted them to an online format. Go to dictionary.com and type in the word hero. Read the dictionary definition, and they read it, and then their job is to decide how close was I to this guess to what I read, and they just choose on a scale. You know, in a classroom, what that would look like, right? That would be a discussion, but this is at least getting their brain going in that same way. In the classroom, we would normally make a brainstorm chart. What are the characteristics of a hero? So since I'm not able to do that asynchronously, I'm just asking them to agree or disagree, but I'm planting the seed of the definition of that hero. And that's also described in the text, right? So what are your thoughts? A hero is a person who shows courage, yes or no? Is a hero a person who helps others? A hero does something out of the ordinary. Because, my friends, that's what I want them to evaluate with when they read about people in history. Did the hero show courage? How? Find evidence. Did the hero help others? How? Find evidence. Did the hero do something out of the ordinary? What? Find evidence. Like, this is where we're headed with these questions. Then connection to themselves to make it relevant. Can you think of someone who demonstrates those qualities? How is that person courageous? How is this person helpful? Has this person done something extraordinary? Explain, right? So just getting them to think about it and write. They're still on their own, right? We're now into the part where they're exploring and getting information. So I quickly just put in a read aloud that normally in class we would read it aloud, but if you can think of a book, there is some teacher on YouTube who has recorded him or herself reading it. So you can pretty much find any book you want read aloud. And if not, it's very easy to record yourself reading a book. So this is a read aloud of Cesar Chavez. I ask students, listen, just when you're done, be thinking, is there evidence that he's a hero? I always want them to be looking at the information as, does he show courage? Did he help others? Did he do something out of the ordinary? So listen to this biography. Then they look at a primary source. This is artifact number 2, right? So look at the primary source. Do you see evidence that he's a hero? Primary source 3 is nonfiction. I wish it didn't say for first and second grade. It does, but it's actually a decent piece, even though that's in the title. This can be used with any grade level. I don't know why it says that, but I wanted to make it simple and I just grabbed stuff off YouTube. Again, they watch this biographical video. In this video, there are a lot of primary source photos, which I think is really great that students are exposed to it in a way that they don't have to Google search. And what evidence that he is a hero. So they looked at 3 sources and finally a quote. So you can see from a historian perspective, I'm getting plenty of primary sources here and a secondary source. And giving kids multiple ways and multiple sources to look at so they can corroborate them and find out for themselves if indeed Cesar Chavez is what we would call a hero. So we read a quote, I ask them, what do you think it means? And then finally, what information did you find out about Cesar Chavez from your 4 resources? Put the notes on paper or use a graphic organizer of your choice for our next class discussion. So you give kids about a week, provide this on Monday. On the following Monday, you meet your synchronous time online and we go over our notes. If kids don't take notes, they still benefit from the conversation. If you want to give them your thinking map or whatever you're using, you can give it to them. I tend to like kids to take notes on their own because that is the ultimate goal. And by the time in March, they should be able to do that. Fold paper, do something, create some sort of thinking map for themselves. And then just simply ask them, I prepared my notes for class. So let me pull that one down. And then what you have as a teacher, these are resources that the teacher can use in any format you like. But when you get back together for that class time, that synchronous class time, You could put this on a Flipgrid. You could put this on any one of the multiple formats that you can have kids take notes on, or you can even use a Google Doc or Google Slides. But I just left it this way. You could copy paste it and put it in whatever format you use or whatever platform you use. But basically we're gonna have, the kids have already done that on their own. And so we're gonna take notes together in our synchronous time. Here are our 4 sources. What did we find out about Cesar Chavez? It could be the same day or another day, however you want to divide your time. Is he a hero? In those 4 sources, where do we see that he demonstrated courage? Where do we see that he helped others? Where do we see that he did something ordinary or exceptional? So we get them to pull information out of their sources that they've read. Our writing options, so many, but I put a few on here that you could possibly use as idea seeds or to use as is, but they use their graphic organizer. They write an opinion piece. How is he a hero? Give your evidence, which is in our language arts standards. Provide evidence. It's also in our social studies standards. So we're getting a bunch of ELA and a bunch of social studies done at once, those thinking skills. You can structure it if you need to structure with closed paragraphs, fine. But one way you can do is shared writing or independent writing on the same thing. We can do projects. They can honor a hero. Once they know what a hero is, they can find one from the local community. Remember in that second question in their beginning of the form, ask them, who do you know? Well, now they can use evidence and come up with a hero of their own and who they think they should honor in their own community and why. How did they show that they were a hero? I wanted to tie it to what's happening today because we hear so much about essential workers being heroes. Maybe it's a time for you to discuss and consider what demonstrates a hero now during COVID-19. And has that definition changed when there's a global pandemic? Why not? The students can collaborate. You can put them in chat rooms or have them work in small groups in whatever format you're using. To let them decide on a hero to honor. They can make a certificate, a little mini museum, a slideshow, anything that you can think of, but a way they can tie it and make it relevant is that they now know what a hero is. They've looked at an example in history. We can continue to look for heroes in any place in history and in the news today, but I wanted them to think of a hero to be honored and why they're being honored. And if possible, here's that action piece that makes it real and relevant. If possible, how cool would it be to email that certificate or let that honoree know, or invite that honoree to, or a few of them, to your next synchronous time. Those are the things kids remember. And those are the ways that kids feel powerful when they're actually connected to their community and taking what they've learned and moving it into actual civic action and being a part of a community. So there is that you can use however you like. I'll shrink that back down and let's go back to this. I wanted to thank you for that, and I'm going to open to questions now. I hope that was beneficial to you in some way, and I'm happy to talk or discuss or take any questions that you might have. So Joe, do you want to open up and I'll stop screen sharing.
There was no questions during the presentation. I did share the links as you talk through them. So there might be a little bit of processing time involved with that.
Sure.
Everybody has been set up that you can unmute yourself at this point, so please feel free to do so.
I have a quick question. It's kind of not on this topic exactly, but what is a continuation high school?
Oh, our continuation high school is basically it provides a looser format for education. It's a lot of times the kids who are not successful in our regular high school that perhaps need individual instruction, or it's a place with alternate education options.
All right, great, thank you.
Mhm.
So I assumed, but.
Yeah.
Rebecca, there was one question about your email address that could
Okay.
be posted again, and it is linked in the presentation that I did.
Yeah.
Then Mark wants to know, how did you manage evaluation or assessment for these inquiry units?
So it's the same as you would in a classroom. I'm not seeing Mark, but thanks for that question. Let me see if I can find you. Oh, you're unpictured and muted. It would be the same as in a classroom. We have a rubric, the projects come in, whatever it is, and it's rubric scored. Kids have access to that rubric ahead of time, and you're in the rubric, you would list whatever it is that your standards are in kid-friendly language. Typically, I'm looking for certain skills in there, either whether it's writing or evidence-based writing, and then a specific amount of content. So we would rubric score those projects the way we would in class time. Does anyone have anything to share that you're doing amazing?
I just wanted to share, this is Bo Zabrick up in Aroostook County. I'm at a career and tech ed center, which is mostly juniors and seniors, and these are great things that I could use with them. So this was labeled elementary social sorry about that, social studies. But this is stuff, and I love your 5 E's. I'd love to get your PowerPoint so that I could steal that slide and use it, because it's terrific. That would definitely work with my kids, and it's just the kind of thing my instructors need to hear, is that this is what the highlights of this learning is.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for mentioning the social and emotional learning piece too, because that's, again, high school, it's very relevant.
Yeah, it's, we do have to remember that even our kids that did this well are still traumatized. This has been a time of trauma for everybody. And even our kids with
not just the parents.
Right. But, we have to go into the next school year, or if you're still teaching, that has to be our overarching umbrella, because we know how closely the brain is tied to this when it comes to learning, right? The brain doesn't learn unless it feels safe. And so we're dealing with an entire population, adult and students, who've been traumatized. And we say even the kids who had full access and parents at home who had the best case scenario are still traumatized for the fact that they went to school on Friday and never went back.
Conversely, the high school kids especially, this online environment is their comfort zone.
Yeah.
So I find they really take to the stuff if it's engaging, if those 5 E's apply.
Yes, thank you. Right.
Sure. Rebecca, one of the ideas that I got from when I started coming to some of these DOE in-services and things is the idea of using a choice board for kids.
Yeah.
And it gives that whole element of independence and choice. And there's a gal she's usually here. A lot of you that are here hear us talk about it a lot. But so I put one together after I had done 2 packets that we had to deploy and send home, which I hated. And the level of engagement of the students, as well as just the quality of the productivity of their work, elevated significantly when they felt like they had control over something, over some choice.
Such a good point.
I would use that regardless, synchronous or asynchronous from here out. I've just loved that idea.
Yeah, I'm telling you, this was our golden opportunity to provide those open creative assignments and projects that we may not have had the opportunity to use otherwise. And a choice board is like a child's dream come true, because choice is voice, right? And
yes, I like that.
Kids are so used to having choice. I mean, when they play, everything electronic they play, they're in control. They choose. And so schools should mirror the things that they're used to, and the things that they're used to, that they're used to having control. And so having choice gives them that sense of, I choose, I'm in control, this is my voice, it matters. And I mean, what more democratic principle can we teach than that?
Totally agree. Thank you so much for sharing this morning. That was wonderful. And
Oh,
thanks
you're
for getting
welcome.
up so early, dear.
My pleasure.
Other questions for Rebecca? Last call on questions. I'm not going to keep you here till 11 if you don't have questions.
I had one more question. Backing up, how did you get teachers oriented to the inquiry-based approach?
So that's a very good question. Some are farther along than others. Our framework is, we say it's new, even though it was 2016, but I think you saw on the opening slide, it said CLICK member, and CLICK is it stands for Content, Literacy, Inquiry, Citizenship, which are the 4 big domains of our framework, which is inquiry-based and driven, which yours is too, if you're using C3 or anything like that. And a lot of times state frameworks model the C3 framework. So to answer that question is hard, because some teachers are very far along in that idea. Some are just, some are in the middle, and some are like, what standards? We have new standards. I thought the best way is to lead by example. And right now, teachers want to be provided examples. Like here, that's why I created that example. And I had many teachers use it and return the student work, which was glorious for me to see how it worked. But I think it's important to provide the example and tell why you've done what you've done. So providing that very simple Google form to teachers was their lifesaver. When teachers do it and they see the quality of student work that results, they're hooked. It doesn't take much more than that. When they try it or when they do it and they see the result, they're like, oh, I'm going to do this again. So a lot of times it's hard to create those things. I feel like it's important to create them for teachers with teachers, and then do just what we do when we're teaching. So I show you, then we do it together. Now you do one and let me watch it. So it's that slow release model where you help guide teachers that way. Like here's one, try it. Let me help you while you do it. Now let's do one together. Now let's write one together, but you do it and I'll just watch this time and give guidance. So it's that slow release model. And I feel like that hooks teachers. And the thing about teaching is, just like any other adult or any other human interaction, when grassroots is the best, right? When somebody does something cool and they start buzzing about it on grade level or with their peers, then everybody kind of perks up, like, what are you doing? And the culture then changes of the site. Now, what's been wonderful for me, I have 5 elementary schools, but because of what we had collaboration meetings every single week for the last 11 weeks, but they were district-wide collaboration meetings. So now my first grade team is solid. Like, they have met together 11, and prior to distance learning, they met with each other on site. So they might have been working well together, the 3 of them, the 4 of them on site. But now I've got this amazing group of, 15, 20 teachers on grade level that are fully comfortable sharing with each other, that trust each other, that see the value in collaboration. I mean, teacher collaboration is everything. And when we start collaborating, guess what? We start reflecting. And when we start reflecting on our lessons, we improve our lessons. It's natural. So getting teachers to just trust each other and truly collaborate means they're reflecting on their teaching. And the best reflective conversations are honestly not planned. I've listened to teachers just have coffee together or go hiking or whatever, and they have the most amazing professional conversation. So I feel like it's that humanness of bonding. We have bonded over this experience, as horrible as it has been. There's been some major team bonding, some major human bonding that will never, ever be reversed and I see that also as a simple silver lining, that when people go through trauma, tragedy together, there is a bond there that can't ever be reversed. And I feel in a way that many of our teachers have done that because they've relied so heavily on each other. I mean, if you're working with a group of teachers, we walked into this, you know, school closed on a Friday, we never went back, kids' sweaters were still hanging on the back of their chairs, right? So there's a lot of emotional things happening, but right away, I could distinguish my teachers into 3 groups. So I had my top third who like, this is, okay, cool, I got this. I'm Google Classroom ready, I'm tech savvy, I know everything. And then I have my middle group, like, just tell me what you want me to do and I'll do it, you know? And then the last group that was just terrified, right? This is the group that needed the heaviest support at first, just like in a classroom of students. So each person on that bottom terrified list, I slowly tried to move them to that middle category, and we did that with each other, because no one person can do that alone, right? So it's a lot about teamwork and helping people feel safe. So those teachers that were terrified relied heavily on their peers, and then that really helped solidify instruction and actually made things more equitable, perhaps, for kids.
I have another question. So like you do, I integrate my social studies with reading and writing. So I teach humanities. My partner teaches STEM. So if you're doing a social studies inquiry on the first day and over the week they're expected to write an argument, when are you teaching, you know, when you're in the classroom, you have time to teach your argument paper, you have time, to you know, designate learning. So how would you suggest that other piece of teaching gets done individually, small groups?
No, so I mean, you could do it that way, but I think the most effective way to teach like a language writing lesson would be to create your own video. So you can go onto Zoom and do a Zoom by yourself and just push record and get a whiteboard and teach a 15-minute mini lesson. Okay. And then that's one day. And then the next day is like, here's an example of a really good one. Here's a bad example of one. You know, just you won't have interaction, but I think your voice, your language is probably most effective. You can find already done videos, but a lot of times, number one, kids value you, and you know what they need, and you know the language you want to use. And I think a modeled writing in that format, 12-minute videos of yourself just teaching. Okay. And then it's uploaded and it's asynchronous. Right. And it can be synchronous. It's just that we don't always have that luxury, especially with elementary students, to be synchronous all the time. It's sort of unrealistic.
Thank you.
Second last call for. We got to do that, right, to spark those questions.
Well, I definitely enjoyed spending some time with all of you. I applaud your efforts, and I hope everything's okay in Maine, wherever you're located, that our current climate doesn't weigh too heavily on all of you. Take care of yourselves.
Well, thank you very much, Rebecca, on behalf of the participants now and anybody that may watch this in the future.
My pleasure.
Thank you for giving your time.